A while back, I had made a joke that what if we live in Bikini Bottom? Like, what if, we were underwater, but inside of like an air bubble, right? And so I used to always make that joke, but now I'm starting to really think it's not so much of a joke because, like, I was just sitting here just breathing, right? Just regular inhaling. And then, so as I was doing that, like I can just feel like, my nostrils, like they're burning, they're hot. And then I'm like, that's the same feeling I get when I go underwater and I don't hold my nose, like that same burning feeling that just goes up, like up to here. So it's really dry today. I got all these dry blotches. Oh man, I could put some lotion on, but I will. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like when you're breathing, and I'm like, I'm noticing like the same feeling, but then just starting to think about sharks now. And sharks can only go to a certain depth or they'll drown, even though that they live in water, they eat in water, they do everything in water. But if they go to a certain depth, that's what's bothering me, they'll drown. So, and it started making me think about us as people and humans as well, that if we drink too much water, we'll drown. And, of course, if we go to a certain depth as well without the proper equipment, we'll drown. Get back over here. Hang on. 1 second. Let me get some lotion on this face. I just did a spiritual wash. Just washed my face. And the cold isn't making it any better. One of my friends I went to school with, her name's Caressa. She's got this little shop. She make this holistic stuff. And I bought it, just to support a friend. But it's just shea butter, shea and aloe butter. Little spa therapy stuff. But this stuff works wonders on my skin. So shout out to Caressa, girl. Do your big one. Okay. Finally, now my skin feels like it can breathe. But anyways, and then so I was just thinking, like, what if we really do live underwater? And what if, like, because, like, if you think about it, our whole conception, we were submerged in water. So how does, like, a water submerged being, come out to live on dry land without the need to be in water anymore? And just made me think, like, again, fish. What if, like, we are a different type of mammal, but we just live at a higher level than the other animals or mammals? And what got me to thinking about this was the food chain. You know how the triangle is set up and it shows you, like, oh, the bottom of the food chain, and they even use the same chart in, like, nutrition. But looking at that, and then I had watched what was that, The Prince of Egypt. I've been going through, like, all my childhood memories of all the movies that I used to love to watch. So I watched Land Before Time. Love love Land Before Time. I watched Quest for Camelot, Prince of Egypt, and now I'm trying to find Dragon Tales where I can watch that. But I was watching Prince of Egypt and then looking at, like, the stuff on the walls. Excuse me, I feel like I was finna sneeze. But just looking at, like, the stuff in there and how it's layered, kind of like in a box, like a chart, kind of. So I was looking at them like, what if that was like the Egyptians' way of telling us that we're at an elevated level? Because, like, if you really look at it, it shows, like, kind of like it's just going like this from the top, go down, over, down, over, down, over, until they get to the bottom. So I'm like, what if that was their way of, like, explaining stairs? But I'm like, maybe they would have probably just drawn out the stairs. That would have made sense. But I don't know. But just their way of showing like elevation. And then of course SpongeBob comes to my head, like who lives in a pineapple under the sea. And then just seeing what Mr. Krabs' secret formula is. Like a lot of things come to my head, like like what if there's just like, I know there's always more to life, and like everybody's like attention is on Antarctica, the ice wall. But what if like there's more right in front of our faces? Because like when I was looking at like birds and just looking like at how they flapping their wings, like are they really flapping like flying, or are they swimming? Because it's the same hand motion, and you know when you're swimming you gotta get that pressure up first, like move the water and get it like, you know, water bending in a way to get it to where how you can move through it. And it makes me think about birds. I don't know, a lot of stuff just comes through my head now. And a lot is just me just rewalking through my childhood, but now as an adult. It's like all the things that I wanted to do as a kid. It's like now I'm just like in a place to do it, but as an adult. But it's like, and I'm just laughing like all the things that I thought was silly, or you know, people might have talked me out of, and like I don't know, but I don't know. It's just something to really think about. Like, what if we're really in an air bubble under another like larger ocean? Because if you look at like how like the light, the sunlight, or even the moonlight reflects against the water, that reflection show like it just tells you like there's something more out there, and it's more than just a firmament. Like I've already played with that whole thought in my head, even tried to like reenact like how the way the sun, like if it's the sun like physically sitting in water, because there's water above us and below us, and like we're in water, like we're in water. So I'm like, what if like we're like the fish tales, like the fish stories, and then we're being observed by somebody else outside of the tank, and then we're all these fish separated into different groups, classifies, like classifications, and like just being watched and monitored. I don't know, a lot of random stuff just started going through my head. And then, you know, just started thinking about people again. And then like just people's like level of awareness. And, you know, I just kind of just understood that, you know, people can only see you as far as they can see themselves. And they can only understand you as far as they can understand their trauma. So a person who doesn't think that they're hurt, doesn't think there's nothing wrong with them, they ain't gonna be susceptible, or you know, to what you're saying, versus somebody that's lost and looking for understanding. They're gonna be open to hear because they've tried, you know, their way and it didn't work, or other ways, and so they're just open to just understanding. And my understanding, like, you know, we know and understand that things have happened in this world. It just got me thinking about fish again. It just really like how the cycle of life, like how does that really work? Right? So like to me, in my understanding, is that how I look now, you know, when I meet my resting age or place, you know, when that good day comes, you know, when I wake up again, I might have a different complexion. You know, I might be a different person. I might be a man. I've had like memories and dreams and visions where I've had like past life experiences where I was different people, different races. And it's even like trees and objects. Like I think I've explained that like before, like, and when I was just speaking about just like trauma, and like somebody just not really healing from that trauma and then coming back with that same trauma and then introduced to new traumas. That's just like an endless world, like an endless cycle, a whirlwind, just endlessly just going. And then like you think about like all the traumas that people have suffered, like even the ones that we're witnessing today, like with ICE. Like, no, I don't, want to see that happen to anybody, no race of people. But not saying that some things have to happen, but I'm just understanding that certain things have to happen for a system to fall and crash. That's like a tower falling. Like, nobody tells you, like, in order for a tower to fall, somebody's got to go, like, with like a bulldozer, jackhammer, or something to start knocking those bricks down. And even though you may not see it from standing from the front of it, but behind the scenes or in the back of the tower, somebody's back there going ham on that building to make the tower fall, because it has to fall in order for something else to rise. And so that's kind of just like how I try to internalize just the things that's going on in this world. That, some things happen that's beyond our understanding. And like, just going back again, just saying like about traumas, like, women, like if you say like black women, me for instance, growing up, I was told like, be smart, but not so much like, pretty much like, don't have a target on your back, kind of like, so to speak. So like when I would participate in stuff, I would just do so much and then I would stop, because for one, I didn't want the attention on myself. And then two, growing up the way that we had to grow up, just automatically just in your head that you're going to have to go out and compete with other races for jobs. You're going to have to compete. So, your looks is going to get you so much for, blah, 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 blah. Your looks are only going to get you so far, but like, it's what's in your brain, but then also what's in your brain will make you a target. So it's kind of like, to the tother. And then just thinking about like, from a Caucasian girl's perspective, grow up, be better than this, or how, they're just groomed pretty much from a young age to become a wife. You got to grow up, get a man, somebody take care of you, live well, da 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 da. Thinking about like from an Asian perspective, and just thinking about, us as women, we have gone through a lot, like different types of levels of trauma just to, be presentable to this world. Then you think about the men, they've already got a chip stacked on their shoulder, because you got to be strong, you got to be a provider, you have to do this, you have to do that, you can't appear weak if you cry, and like all this other stuff. So men already, they get tweaked too from a young age, but we're all being tweaked, but that tweaking is really trauma. And then, just taking just myself out of the situation, out of the equation, just share the stage with every other race and every other person, and you just see everybody's perspective, that our way of being or upbringing was just like, our parents in their own way, like their level of protection. But then you think about protection, how much protection does one really need? Because too much protection could be a crutch, and then less protection could be less of a crutch. Like, just so I was just thinking, like, from a man and then a woman's perspective, women, I feel like we're pushed and, to grow up faster than what we would like to grow up faster. Either traumas that happen to us as, being young, and, just the certain things that we have to do, but, be that woman, the everything. That's why I say like the women are the source of life, because, you had to come here to get through a woman to get through to this world. I don't know why I'm struggling on my words, but just thinking about that, like women are pushed up and grown to like pushed out the door faster. I know I was kicked out at 18 and I wasn't ready to leave, go, or nothing. I was not just mature enough to just be like, okay, I'm finna be on my own. Like, yeah, I was waiting, for summer to end so I can go to school, but that didn't happen the way that I saw happen. Like, just life, just really life me, man. It really life me. And, but, I came back to my center now. It didn't get the best of me. But then just thinking like how my brothers, they was able to stay home past 18, they wasn't kicked out, and they was able, to get a better standing. They were more protected, I feel like. The men were more protected, to whereas the women were pushed out to fend for yourself, to where as and you know how it was supposed to be, the masculine was supposed to protect the feminine, but how it turned to be was that the masculine was protected instead of the feminine. And which I'm not blaming anybody. I understand, just from growing up and, histories that our parents or grandparents or great grandparents, why didn't this rub all the way in? Nobody was going to tell me that was just sitting there chilling. But like the traumas that our parents, great grandparents, like they had to suffer, that form of protection came from a form of survival. So most of us was raised out of fear because of something that had happened. Because I know, like with my family, I'm not sure what all went on with the medicine world, but couldn't pay them to take us to the doctor for nothing. You're fine. You're okay. And, I didn't get it, but as an adult, I started to get it. But as an adult, I also didn't realize that I was allergic to bananas. And I, kept saying like all the stuff that it was doing to me and still was made to eat bananas because ain't nothing wrong with you. And so, once I was an adult and I took myself to the doctor and found out like, I'm allergic to this, I'm allergic to this, and sensitive to this, allergies to this. And I'm just like, in my whole life, I feel like Eminem. My whole life, I was made to believe I was sick when I wasn't. But my whole life, I was sick. Well, not like always sick, but I was sick, but always like, ain't nothing wrong with you. Because then at the same time, I understand like going to the doctor, Henrietta Lacks, big example. I get it. But it's just so much. But like we've all been traumatized at some level, and it's nothing to do with race nor gender. Like we've all been traumatized to some level. And then it just makes me think of like just like reincarnation, like when you come back, like say like for slavery, for instance. So say like there was like people who owned slaves and was rude to slaves. So what if in their next life, when they come back, they're made to be a slave so that they can experience what they did when they had power and control versus now being powerless now and having to fend for themselves, but just that experience as like a lesson. So then now when they come back again, they know like, man, I can't do that because this finna happen. And man, I know what that felt like because I lived that life too. And I went, wish that on my worst enemy. Versus, like somebody that mistreats animals. Like, what if in their next life they come back as an animal and, being mistreated now? So now they know how it feels and they experienced it. Because if you think about life, it's really an experience. It's just a series of experiences through like simulations. Everything is something that happens. It's something that's going to trigger our nervous system. And that's why I say like our nervous system is only nervous because it's scared. Like who else gets nervous? Why would a nervous system, a whole system of nervousness, and then you're like, oh, nerves, like haha. I make jokes to myself like a lot. But I'm like, and that's just pretty much like all the teachings, like whether you look through whatever religion. Because like I've already explained, I've had this outer body experience like back in 2012. Everybody thought the world was finna end. And per like the Mayan calendar, it was like, oh, the Mayans knew everything. They tracked time up to 2012, and they said, there's no more dates after this, so the world's gonna end, and da 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 da. So everybody was being crazy. And at this time, I did not believe in God at all, because I'm just like, you just put me here to suffer pretty much. Like, show yourself, little sap sucker. But we worked through our beef, though. We worked through our stuff. But at that time, like, me not believing, so I'm like, if there is, like, a slight chance that, God is real, I wasn't even praying so much for myself. I was just thinking about, like, like all the homeless people that's out on the street that already don't have nothing, and now they finna have nothing minus nothing, right? Then I'm thinking about, like, if people just on some purge type stuff where they just, randomly just start attacking like women and children, then thinking about like, men, like what they start, or just women, like what they're gonna start burglarizing like the businesses and making it worse for people that's trying. So like that's just where my mind was at. Not once with me, like my self covered like came across my head. And I had that out of body experience, which I had talked about it before. And I flew to this place, and there was every denomination there, and everybody was trying to call their God there. And whatever it was, it made me mad, just like the lengths that they was going to try to prove whose God was better than whose God. And so they all came up. We was somewhere in the desert. And I don't even know, but it made me so mad. I just screamed like, enough. Like at everybody, like enough. Because like to me, I'm like, y'all is just so foolish. Like to me, like in that moment, because like I said, I didn't believe in God. I didn't know anything about spirituality in 2012. I knew nothing. I just, as far as I knew, like spirits was evil. Don't talk to your imaginary friends, which I'm glad I still did. I didn't listen to that part because they was really nice. but like that's as far as I knew, was like as far as like spirituality or spirits, that they was all evil. Don't look at them, like they might try to talk to you like da 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 da. Even though I've always seen them my whole entire life. Like it's just like, I don't know, like I just been in between worlds, if that makes sense. Even like now, I can walk into a specific room and then I'll be somewhere else in a spiritual, but there in that room, but then somewhere else consciously. But consciously, I can see where I'm at. I can see like other people. It's just like, I don't know. That's what makes me think like like, is our worlds on top of each other? Have they merged together? I have a lot of questions, because I'm like, how can I be in two places at one time and completely see here, like as if I was there, but I'm not there? But I don't know. But back to reincarnation, just makes me think like, that's the way the circle of life go. And that's possibly why, life should not be taken as seriously as we have been taking it. Like, yeah, there are, some parts to get serious, and then, parts to have fun. Let your inner child live, because we put our inner child up once we turn 18, possibly even before then, because we was wanted to be grown up and mature. But a lot of people don't understand like what I had to sit with myself, like when I get angry and just like enraged and like that's my inner child. That's how she felt. And her voice just got louder. Like as I was a child, it was a smaller voice, but like now as an adult, it's a loud voice. But then you also have to think about like yourself too, at a high aspect, a middle point, and then a low aspect. So I'll say like higher self or lower self, right? So your lower self is like your masculine energy. Your lower self is supposed to protect here your higher self, like your higher chakras. And then your heart is the middle point. Your heart is like a courtroom, a conference room, a neutral ground, a neutral landing spot for either energy, whether in balance or out of balance. It's like a safety net. Home. The heart is the home for the body. I like that. But I don't know, a lot of things just cross my mind. And then I just also just think like, just seeing how other animals, the ones that we eat, that we say like don't know any better, but they understand and demonstrate community, demonstrate everything. And then it's us that has the division, and us that just can't seem to understand. But I'm like, but if we are under the sea or under some type of body of water, which I know we are, because I'm like, I can just feel it just from breathing in, just like how it would feel like if you're underwater and you breathe in water. I don't know. Maybe water's gonna be my next exploration point. I know I got a lot of open projects going on, but my mind is an open project. But if like, what do you guys think? Because I do think we're underwater. But I think like we're in an air bubble underwater. Like how you like blow bubbles in the water and you see that bubble come up, and it's in the water, but it's a dry place within the water. Because like even if you think about like under like, because I watch a lot of explorations, like people going under the sea and finding lost shipwrecks and things like that. That kind of stuff interests me. And then like even when they're under there, like you'll see like caves within water. So like how doesn't the water go in there, but it's dry places. So it just really makes you think. And like I know like, the marine water spirits, that the ones that can control that does control government and most of what we got going on in this world today. I know that they're in there. And then I'm also just aware of the people that live below us. And then there's life above us. But I think the people that live below us, I think that's like the realm of the ancestors. But don't quote me yet. Don't quote me yet. I'm still working through it, but I'm sure, I'm positive that there is life above us and there's life below us as well. And then there's life above that life and life below that life. And we're all in water. And if you just drop certain things in water, you see how some things sink automatically and then some things float. Just think about that. And maybe we didn't sink. And maybe it just have to do with like the mass and the carbon, like our genetic makeup to make it to where we don't. I don't know.